So what we learned yesterday was very fundamental about Python, and we actually started programming. So today also we are going to write a few programs. What is the plan for the day is let's see what we learned yesterday. We saw a very simple code like this. A is 10, B is 20, C is A plus B, and print C, right? Very simple. So output of this code is going to be 30 because A is 10, B is 20, so C will become 30. We said that A, B, C, these A, B, C are variables. Variables is nothing but something which can store a value. So A is a variable, so it stores a value. Simple. Additionally, a variable can store a value and variable can change its value. We can increase, decrease the value. That's why variable. Second thing we understood is that every variable, I'll write in short, every variable has data type. And this is not an extraordinary term. Data type is nothing but type of data. Type of data. So when you actually write A is equal to 10, in Python, then A is a variable and A has type int because it is storing int value, the whole number. Whereas if I would have written 10.5, like something like this, then A is still a variable, but its data type is float because it stores floating type value or real value. Or if I write B is equal to, let's say in quotation, Samir, quotation close, then B is a variable of data type str, string str. And there are numerous such data types in Python. And we are going to touch each and every data type in detail. Yesterday, we just got introduced to what is variable, what is data type. So every variable has a data type. We have known this. Now, we also learned, besides this, we also learned how to write print statement in such a way that it prints better outputs. I hope you recall. Like, the output of this code is 30, but 30 is not impressive. What if we want output as sum equal to 30? That's better, isn't it? I mean, it's okay, 30 is the sum, but we want this sum equal to also to be printed on the screen. Then we understood that this print statement, which is simply printing C, should be changed. And this should be written as print bracket in quotation sum equal to quotation close. Now the lesson you got yesterday is whatever is given in the print in the quotation. When you give quotation, then whatever is given in the quotation is printed as it is on the screen. But then what you do is the C, the variable C, you give outside the quotation and separate this with comma. I also taught yesterday that what if I write this print like this, quotation sum equal to C, like this. If I write, see, entire thing I have put in the quotation, even C I have put in the quotation, then the output will be sum equal to C. Letter C will be printed on the screen, but we don't want this. We want value of C. So C should not be given in the code, but it should be given outside the code. So look, sum equal to is in code, then C is outside the code, and they are separated with a comma. So just see, just as a revision, just see this code. Suppose I have A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20, C is equal to A plus B, and then I write a statement like this, print sum of quote close, comma A, comma, and, comma, B, comma, quote equal to, comma C. comma C. Now, the output of this will be sum of, just check this, given in the code will be printed as it is on the screen, sum of. But then there is a comma followed by A. Look, A is not given in the code, correct? So A will not be printed as a letter, but value of A will be printed, which is 10. After that, again a comma is given, but and is written in the quote. So and will be printed as it is. And then a comma, but B is given without quote. So value of B will be printed, that is 20, then comma, comma, correct? What is all this? Wait a minute. Okay. And then equal to is given in the quote. So equal to is printed, and then finally C. So value of C, which is 30, is printed. Very nice. This output is good, and it will convey the user that what exactly has happened in our program, which values have got added, and what is the answer. This is what we learned yesterday. Additionally, I taught how to take input from keyboard. Have a look at this code which we saw yesterday. A is equal to input, bracket. I hope you still remember the grammar. Enter first number. I'll write in short, enter first NO. Then B is equal to input, enter second number. Correct? Now what this input is actually a function. We can call it as a statement, but it is a function. Input function allows user to input some value from the keyboard. So when this line actually runs, wait a minute, Sarika is waiting, I'll admit her. Okay, just check. When this line actually runs, what happens on the screen is, enter first number is displayed. You saw it yesterday, and a text box is displayed where the cursor is waiting. And now I will input some value. There is someone on chat. Let me check. Sir, while installing Anaconda, there are two checkboxes. Add Anaconda to my path environment variable. Register Anaconda as default Python 8.3.8. What do I do? See, who is asking? Siddhant. Siddhant, the first one, that is add Anaconda 3 to my path environment variable, na, that only you check. The other one you don't check. I mean, just put a tick to the first thing. Add Anaconda to my path environment variable. And the other thing, register Anaconda 3 as default Python 3.8, you leave it unchecked. You leave it, don't check it.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Siddhant. Okay. So, what will happen due to this, this statement we saw, that this message that is written, enter first number, will be displayed on the screen, and then you are entering some value here. Now, the fun part over here is that you have entered 10. So, you will always think that I have entered number 10. Come on, in our world, 10 is a number. But Python mischievously takes this 10 and stores it in A as a string. It will store it as quoted 10. Just check this. So we feel that A is storing number 10, but no. A is not storing a number. A is storing a string. That means any input taken in Python through keyboard is always taken in the form of a string. Just check, what will this line do? This will also print enter second number. Sorry for my bad handwriting again. Enter second number and checkbox. Oh, sorry, not checkbox, text box, which allows us to input some value. Suppose I enter 20, then 20 will be loaded in B. B is a variable, but 20 will be taken as a string. Now the point is, I want to add these two numbers. I want to write C should become A plus B. But hello, this is wrong. Because A and B in the first place are not numbers. They are strings. So we should convert these strings into numbers. So typically what we do is, we take the input and we say, okay, hello Python, you gave me a string, fine, but I'll convert it into an integer. That's easily done by writing A, you become integer of A. Now look, A when becomes integer of A, what that means is A is 10, correct? Everybody agrees A is a string, and literally this string will be converted into a number and A will perfectly become numeric 10. Okay? Bad, actually bad that Python returns a string, but that's how it is designed. And then we have to write an additional line over here so that we will convert string into a number. And similarly, we'll say B also should become equal to integer of B. So B will become numeric. Now both A and B have become numeric. So this line is correct now. C will become 10 plus 20, the values that we entered, and C will become 30, and then we can print the answer. Print C. This is what we learned, how to input. And interestingly, we saw 2-3 programs also, which you answered. Okay, so this is what we did in the yesterday's class. Let me go through. Yes, Shubham, you recall all this learned yesterday? Shubham Shelar,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Siddhant. Hello,
Yes,
Siddhant.
sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah, very good. What about Sarika? Sarika Patil? Hello, Sarika. Is Sarika on chat? Okay, yes, sir, she says. I thought she must be on chat. Siddhant is saying something, I suppose. No. Okay. So, what's the plan for the day? I'll just erase the screen. Give me some time, or I'll go on a new screen. Okay. Well, we start with math operators in Python. Sorry, math operators in Python. See, mathematical operators plus for addition, minus for subtraction, asterisk for multiplication, slash for division, double slash for floor division. This is for division, and double slash for floor division. Then we have percent operator. This is remainder. And then we have asterisk, asterisk. Two asterisks written in quick succession without any space. This is raised to or exponentiation. So these math operators are offered by Python. We will learn them, but you will agree with me, there is nothing to learn in add, subtract, and multiply. In fact, I am not telling you this. It will be insult of your intelligence if I tell you this, how to add, subtract, multiply. Okay, but I will tell you, definitely I'll tell you division and floor division. So let's start with this slash operator. This is division operator. Now, the point is, suppose you write a statement like this, C is equal to 10 divided by 3. Then C computed by Python is 3.33333. Just check 10 upon 3 is that, this value. Or if you write C is equal to, let's say 108 divided by 10, then C computed over here will be 10.8. So this is usual division that we use in our day-to-day life. For example, if I ask you what is 5 upon 2, you will say, come on, sir, 5 upon 2 is 2.5. So C will be 2.5. So this is our usual division. But there is another type of division offered by Python, which is 2 slashes. This one, 2 slashes. This is floor division. Let's see what this is. You will find it funny first. At first moment, you will find it funny. And then you will agree, oh yes, this is also needed. Okay, let's see. Double slash. This is floor division. Don't forget, it is division. Although looks to be quite different word, floor division, but it is division. So suppose I say C is equal to 10 divided by 3, double divided by 3, like this. Now, this still means that we are dividing 10 with 3. But what is 10 upon 3? 10 upon 3 is 3.33333, correct? But when you use floor division, then the answer won't be 3.3333, but it will be simply 3. Just check this. It will be 3. That means when you use floor division and when you are dividing two quantities, using floor division, when you divide two quantities, then answer you get is always a whole number, integer. Like, suppose I say, what is 22 by 7? Now, everybody's favorite quantity, 22 by 7, everybody will say is 3.14, or rather more than that, 3.147, whatever. It's ongoing, it goes on. But then, okay, but see, if I write 22 double slash 7, now this is floor division. Now the answer won't be 3.14, but it will be 3. Okay, just try it again. What if I write C is equal to 108 upon 10? You know the answer is 10.8. But if I write floor division, then it will be simply 10. Observe this. That means whenever you divide two quantities using floor division, then the answer is only integer portion. The float portion is not given in the answer. Now you might find this funny. I mean, if I ask you C is equal to 5 by 2, what it is, you will say 2.5. But if I put two slashes, then the answer is not going to be 2.5. Answer is 2. You might think, why is this floor division needed? After all, in programming, just let me tell you, this floor division is not only needed in programming, but it is needed in our day-to-day life also. Just imagine, as a teacher, in a class, I have 25 students, okay? And I make an announcement that, hello, 25 students, you get divided into two groups. Okay, just check. You get divided into two groups equally and go to two separate rooms. So what do you think? 25 students will be divided by 2 and 12.5. That means 12.5 students will go in one room and 12.5 students will go in other room. Rubbish. This is not the way how integer number of students work. Look, when we have number of students, it can be either 25 or 26. Number of students are always integer. And when I say I am dividing those students into two groups, then it becomes meaningful to write double slash. So what is 25 upon 2? It's 12.5, but it will be 12. So 12 students will go in one group and remaining 13 will go in other group. This sounds meaningful. But okay, but if I have annual profit made by a company, annual profit, and I want to divide this annual profit into four groups, then it becomes meaningful to divide it by 4, because it says that then each group out of 4 might be 100.5 crores. This is meaningful in the case of money or profit, but in the case of integer quantities, this is rubbish. How can I say 25 upon 2, 12.5 got dispersed? You can't have anything like that. So I think I have proved enough that both operators are necessary given by Python. Simple division, or rather I call it as perfect division, because you get correct answer. And here also you get correct answer, but it is floor division. Quite interesting. Now I will come to the third operator of today's discussion, percent. Many people call this as mod operator. Mod. Huh? Okay, fine. But actually it means remainder. Now, if I ask you a simple question, please excuse me for asking such a childish question to you. But if I ask you, if you divide 5 with 2, what happens? Just say, let's say, you're dividing 5 with 2, what happens? You will say, sir, 2 2s are 4, 1, And you can stop division here and say this is the remainder. This is the remainder. Then what is this? This is quotient. So, when you divide two numbers, not only in Python, but in our day-to-day life, when you divide two numbers, you get two answers. One is the quotient and other is the remainder. Now, can you get this remainder in Python? How can you get this quotient? Division, division operator. How do you get this remainder? You see, suppose I say C is equal to 5% 2. Now this percent is the operator. Now, I am not interested in quotient. I am interested in remainder. When I write this, I am interested in remainder. So C will be 1 here. As seen here, as seen, remainder is 1. Now somebody might quarrel or have a fight here. You may say, sir, what you are saying? This is not the way we divide 5 with 2. When we divide 5 with 2, we say 2 2s are 4, then 1, and then we put a point here. Yes, and then we put a 0 here, and then say 2 5s are 10, and the remainder is 0. Oh, what happened? I clicked somewhere. Okay. Remainder is 0. And the quotient is 2.5. And you are saying, how come you are saying that the remainder is 1? Now notice, when we talk about remainders, then both these quantities are integers. Both the quantities are integers. And the division actually allows only integer quotient. So the division stops at 1. And further division here using point and pi is not allowed. So 1 is the remainder and division stops. What that means is we are talking about floor division. I hope you understand. Quotient stops at 2. It doesn't go to give perfect answer 2.5. And only in that case we will get the remainder. Just see. Suppose I say 108% 10. So what is the answer? It's easy to know that 10 into 10 is 100. And what remains is 8. Now, whatever remains 8 remains, cannot be divided further with 10. So 8 is the remainder. Just keep checking. Suppose if I say 15%, let's say 4. Now 4 into 3 is 12. 4 into 3 is 12 and what remains is 3. Now you can't divide 3 further with 4. So 3 is the remainder. I guess you are understanding it. So I have got a question. What is 2% pi? What is the value of this remainder? 2% pi. I am waiting on chat for your answers. You can put it on chat. Just waiting for a few seconds. 0 is the first answer. A Om Prakash. Okay. Any other answer? 2 is the answer. Ankit Maurya. Okay. Any other? 2 is the answer again. Siddhant says. Anyone who wants to participate? Sarika says 2. Okay. Sarika says 2. Okay. Fine then. So, the answer is 2. Not because majority wins. Sorry, bad joke. Indrajit also says 2. Yes. Answer is 2. I was expecting only 2 answers, 0 or 2. That's it. It can be either 0 or 2 and the answer is 2. Let me prove it. Prove is a very big word. What? It's not any big mathematical theorem, but Just give me some time. I'm erasing a few things. Just see 2% 5. What we are actually doing, you are dividing 2 with 5. You will agree with this. And you are finding remainder. What is the remainder? Now just check. Division is not possible. I mean, to divide 2 with 5, you will have to put a point here. Otherwise, division can't even start. I hope you agree. That means only thing you can do is you can say 5 zeros are 0 and remainder is 2. That's it you can do. I hope you understand how the remainder is 2. And what's the quotient? Quotient is 0. That means if you say C is equal to 2 slash slash 5, listen, this is floor division, correct? Now actually 2 upon 5 is 0.4. Everybody knows, but it will be 0. That's what I am saying. This is floor division. And because the quotient is 0, division not even began. And what we had is the remainder. So 2% 5 is 2. Now some interesting observations you do from here. Just check this. I mean, this will just help us in understanding percent and solving it in a faster way. Some observations are, if you take any number and do percent 10, like 108% 10, then you are asking for remainder, isn't it? Then don't waste your time in calculation, because the last digit will be always the answer. Like suppose I say, what is 207% percent 10? Now everybody knows 10 into 20, correct, is 200. 10 into 20 is 200, and what remains is 7. 7 is the remainder. So see, any number percent 10, the answer will be always last digit. Remember this. Remember this observation. It will be very helpful for us. Someday or the other, we don't know, but it will be. Second observation you do is that whenever you write some number percent some number, okay, let's call this number as n1 and this is n2. And if the first number n1 is less than second number n2, like 2% 5, first number is less than second number, then don't waste your time in calculation. The answer is going to be n1. The left hand side number will be the answer. Like if I ask you what is d is equal to 12% 13, if I ask you what's the value of this, don't waste your time. It is 12. Answer is 12. Because this number left hand side is less than this right hand side. So division is not possible. I mean, division can't start. So whatever is given is the answer. That's percent operator. How it works. Okay. Very interesting part about this is that the application, suddenly on one fine day, we will need percent operator. Who knows? Generally, percent operator is useful for cutting your data, because we are going to work on data, isn't it, in machine learning, in cutting your data into fine and equal pieces. And then what happens when you cut your data into equal pieces? Let's say that you have got some data like this data. All this is data, okay, and you are cutting it into equal pieces. And then obviously it might happen that the last piece may not contain that much length which every piece has. So how are you going to deal with this? We will be dealing with this using percent operator and floor division. Anyway, application will come up when we actually get involved in programming. Okay. Now here comes the last operator, asterisk, which is raise to operator. Just take raise to. Now I'll just erase the screen, or wait a minute, I'll go to another empty slide. Okay. So what is raise to? Everybody knows it, I'm sure. Suppose I write C is equal to asterisk asterisk 3. Then this is 2 raised to 3. So C will be 8. Okay. Just raised to. That's it. Okay. So suppose I want to write a formula like this. A is equal to 3.14 into R into R. Just see this. R is the radius of the circle. I can write like this, obviously, no problem. But the same thing could have been written as A is equal to 3.14 into R asterisk asterisk 2. Just take this. R asterisk asterisk 2. This means R square. That's what this means. R into R. Somebody on chat again. Wait a minute. Yes, Ankit. What were you saying? 3.14 R2. What's that? I can read something in the chat. Yes, Ankit. Yeah, it's square. Okay. Yeah, that's what we want to do. So this 3.14 R square can be written like this. Or maybe you're finding volume of a sphere, and volume of a sphere is given by 4 by 3 into pi R cube. So R cube can be written as R asterisk asterisk 3, or this portion can be written as R into R into R. Anything is correct. So these six math operators have been given. Now look, I'm going to tell you something seriously, and this is some harsh words I am using, but as a teacher, I often do that. But whether you like it or not, you have to listen to this. I'm going to talk about precedence of operators. Precedence of operators. And just don't find it silly. I mean, I'm writing an expression here. Z is equal to 10 plus 30 into 2 minus, okay, 6, let's say upon 2, then added with 12% 13. Simple. I have written an arithmetic expression. My question is, what will be the value of Z when this entire expression gets solved? Why I said, you might not like this, because anybody feels that are we sitting in kindergarten class or what? Look, the point is everything has to be known properly. Only then we touch, only then we go to programming. Now here comes the point. How many operators have you seen? Plus, minus, star, correct, slash, double slash, and you have also seen exponentiation, raised to. Okay. Now let's leave aside raised to for some time. Oh, one more you saw, percent. Yeah. Wait a minute. I'm so sorry. Wait a minute. Percent. So let's leave floor division also for some time. Let's talk about these 5 operators. Now, are you watching that in this expression, all 5 operators are there? You can see addition is there, multiplication, subtraction, division, percent, everything is there. Then which operator will be solved first by Python? Now it is so easy for anybody to say that, अरे we have written plus first. यहाँ से left hand side से जब मैं पढ़ता हूँ, when I read the expression from left hand side, plus is written first. So 10 plus 30 should be done first. Wrong, isn't it? You know it. This is wrong. This is not the way how mathematical rule works. So there is something called priority of operators. And the rule is priority of asterisk, division, and percent is same. They have same priority. Okay. And plus and minus, these two operators have got same priority, equal priority. But priority of plus and minus is less. then the priority of asterisk, division and percent. So priority of asterisk, division and percent is more than plus and minus. So you can say plus and minus are in one family, and these three operators are in other family because they have equal priority. So what really happens when this expression gets solved by Python? How Python solves this? Okay, is Python will first check which operator has highest priority. So you can see asterisk, division and percent have high priority. Just now we saw all are in one family and all have high priority. So if these three operators have high priority, which one will be solved first? Will division get solved first? Will percent get solved first? Or will asterisk get solved first? You may say, sir, what difference it makes? You solve all of them, what difference it makes? No, it makes difference, because for our microprocessor can do only one operation at a time. ऐसा नहीं है कि माइक्रो प्रोसेसर 30x2 भी करेगा, 6/2 भी करेगा और 12% 13 भी एक साथ कर देगा. ऐसा नहीं होता है ना. तो अगर ऐसा नहीं होता, if it is not so, then it is our responsibility to learn how Python exactly evaluates this. Now here comes the point. If all these three operators, asterisk, division, percent, have high priority, then Python will check which comes first from the left hand side among the three. Among these three operators, which operator comes first from the left hand side? And Python says multiplication is written first, so I will solve this first. So microprocessor will solve this portion first, which makes it 60, and what remains is minus 6/2 plus 12% 13. This portion remains. Now Python again will check which are the operators with higher priority. Division and percent both have high priority, but then which comes first among them from left hand side? Division is written first, so division will be done first. Somebody on chat again, wait a minute. Oh, Ankit is ready with answer 55. Must be Ankit. Okay, I'm not sure. Let's check. Okay, I'll just make some room, erase this. Please give some time. So as division is written before this percent, 6/2 will be done first. So what we get is 10 plus 60. Okay. Rohit raised hand. Okay, Rohit, continue. You can unmute yourselves and say something.
Sir, my message is not working. Chat box is not working.
It's okay, Rohit. It's okay. You can tell what you want to say.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, fine. So 10 plus 60 minus 3, correct? Because 6/2 this is. I hope you understand. And then plus 12% 3. Now finally Python will check that still this percent is having high priority when compared to plus, minus, plus. Of course, percent has higher priority. So 12% 3 will be done. So we have Z is equal to 10 plus 60 minus 3 plus.
Sir,
Yes.
12% 13 है.
Oh, 13. Sorry.
Yes.
Thanks for correcting. Okay. 12% 13. So 12% 13 is done. Don't waste your time. 12% 13 is 12. We saw that. 2% 5 is 2. Like 12% 13 is 12. Now comes the fun part. Now Python checks which has higher priority now. And it says that plus, minus, plus all have same priority. Then which one will it solve first? कोई बोलेगा क्या फर्क पड़ता है? नहीं फर्क पड़ता है. Hello, in many cases you will get wrong answer if you don't follow this rule. So you have three operators, same priority. Then which one comes first? Plus comes first. So Z is 70 minus 3 plus 12. Now minus comes. So it will be 70 minus 3, which will be 67 plus 12. And now finally Z is, somebody on chat, let me check. What is that? 1 to R? I to R? L to R, yes.
Yes, sir.
Left to right. Yeah, very well said. Left to right. So 67 plus 12, that will be 77, 79 is the answer. Z will be 79. That's the value of that particular variable. And this is the flow in which Python solves it. You saw that when multiplication, division, percent, all three operators appeared, then there was left to right associativity. Whichever comes first from left to right is solved first. There is an understanding between these three operators. They say, look, if all of us come in an expression, let's not quarrel. Whoever comes first will be solved first. Similar rule goes for plus and minus. Okay. Now, why? Why shall we learn all this? Come on. Now, what happens, many times on the paper, we are having an expression like this: A plus B upon C plus D. Yes, in general arithmetics, we write expression like this. We have this upon, big line here. And any reader understands, okay, A plus B should be done first, then C plus D should be done next, and then finally division should be done. Correct or not? Obvious. Now, when we write this in Python, we will write Z is equal to A plus B slash C plus D. Agreed, everyone? And if we leave this as it is, this is wrong. Because now you know that B upon C will be done first. Hello, everyone. B upon C is done first. So what will happen? B upon C is done, and then it will be added to A and D, which is wrong. This is not what we meant. So understanding each priority is so important before you learn any meaningful programs. I mean, there is no point, no sense in understanding face recognition in Python. Please give me some 2 minutes. Over the past 6 months, on Facebook and Twitter and all that social media platforms, I have seen so many classes owners advertising that join. We will teach face recognition in Python, stock market analysis in Python. Well, people approached me also. I said, I can't do that. I can't do that. I will tell somebody what is face recognition in Python if somebody knows from scratch what is Python. Anyway, so how do you repair this? You say that A plus B should be done first, C plus D should be done next. So you put brackets so that slash will be done finally. This is the correct expression. Okay, here we go. Suppose we have an expression like this. Okay, A plus B the whole square divided by C plus D the whole square. This is in general arithmetics. How will you write it in Python? Now look, you will write A plus B into A plus B, or you can even use this raise to operator. I am not using this because this is square, so you can use raise to. So A plus B into A plus B, like R into R, that was R square. But now you know that multiplication will be done first here before addition. So you need a bracket here. You say A plus B, you get solved first. A plus B, you get solved first. And finally multiplication will be done, should be done. And what further we have to do? What further? We have to divide this. Check this denominator. We have to divide this with C plus D into C plus D. This is C plus D the whole square. But you again know that C plus D should be solved first. C plus D should be solved first. And finally multiplication should be done. I hope you're understanding. Now comes the big question. Is there any more bracket needed anywhere? Now, as you have understood priority of operators, I am confident that you know that this is also wrong. This is wrong what I have written. Just tell me, how will this expression get solved? First, all the brackets will get solved. ठीक है? तो A plus B solve होगा, A plus B होगा, C plus D होगा, C plus D. Bracket पहले solve होता है. ठीक है? After that, this multiplication will be done. And what after multiplication? After multiplication, this division will be done. Please try to understand. I hope you are understanding. But we don't want this. We want this entire thing to be done first. Check this. So I will have to put one more bracket over here and one more bracket over here so that the entire thing is done. Somebody on chat, wait a minute. Can we use raise to? Yes, you can use raise to, obviously. Yeah, this operator, as I said. Who was asking? Shubham. Yeah, you can use this. But you see the additional bracket which was needed. So this whole portion, a plus b into a plus b, should be done as one unit. Okay. Then there is a bracket again over here. So this c plus d into c plus d should be done again as one unit. And finally division should be done. That's what we actually meant here, isn't it? Actually meant here. Yes, Om Prakash. A Om Prakash. Have you got this? Have you understood? A Om Prakash. Yeah. Om Prakash replies, yes, sir. Okay. What about Indrajit? Where is Indrajit? Indrajit? Are you getting it? Hello, Indrajit. Oh, here he replies, Indrajit. Yeah, correct. What you written is absolutely right, Indrajit. Okay. So, so what we learned since the beginning of the class, I repeat, was was really childish, isn't it? Because if you tell your younger brother or sister that today sir taught us how to add, multiply, divide, and subtract, I mean, your younger brother or sister will say, "Is it really?" Oh, uh, but if I was in your place, I would also have done this first. Otherwise, I would not have gone further. Okay. Now, somebody,
So what answer we
yeah,
got for presidency operator? Because z is equals to 10 plus 30
z
into
is
2.
z is equal to 10 plus
30 into 2 minus 6 by 2.
into
So the
2 minus 6 by
further,
2. That answer you're asking,
yeah,
79.
79.
Yeah.
So we
So,
got already 70 minus 3 plus 12, no sir?
can anybody correct me? What was the answer? I forgot the answer.
I got it 55.
Yeah,
Sir, it was 79 only.
79.
79.
Just check. Very fast I am doing this. What was the remaining expression? Can you tell? 6 by 2 after that, plus I think 12% 13. Yeah,
13.
this was.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah,
got
yeah.
solved first. So it was 60.
Yeah.
So 10 plus 60 minus this got solved 3.
Okay.
Correct? Plus this got solved
Yeah.
12. Now plus, minus, and plus. Same priority. So plus should be done first. So 70
Okay.
minus 3 plus 12. So 70
Yeah.
minus 3 will be done, which is 67,
Okay.
plus 12, which is 79. I hope you
70
got
minus
this.
3 we have to do.
Pardon?
70 minus 3.
1 minute. Yes, Om Prakash, your expression is correct. Om Prakash. Absolutely right. 70
Thank you,
minus,
sir.
yeah, 70 minus
Yeah,
3
got
should
it.
be done. Yeah, because
Yeah, got
minus,
it.
yeah, minus and plus have same priority, isn't it? So you should do
Yes, sir.
minus first. So
Okay, sir.
67. I'll just write it for my sake here. Just for my sake. See,
Okay.
70 minus 3 plus 12. So this minus and plus have same priority, and minus is written first. So this is done. 67 plus 12. So that is 79. Okay.
Okay.
So after learning math operators and precedence of operators, now I want to come back to this program. You see, program that we were seeing yesterday. Just give some time for this to get loaded. This was Jupyter Notebook. that we were learning, and we had a program where we were printing sum of two numbers. Just check this code. See, this program allows the user to input a value goes in A, input a value again, value goes in B. Then we convert that value into integer because it is always a string, everybody knows. We again convert B into integer, and then we add A and B and print the sum. Now, you all know from the yesterday's discussion that we could have printed sum like this: sum of quote close, comma, A. Check that A is given outside quote because I want to print value of A, then quote, and then comma, then B. I have again given B outside the quote because I want value of B, then quote, equal to, and then comma, C. So when I actually run this code, it's going to ask me first number I may enter 12, second number 13. So it will print this nice output, isn't it? Sum of, and here the value of A has got printed. After and, value of B has got printed, and after equal to, value of C has got printed. So we saw this yesterday. But this print, although is printing a very good answer, but is very difficult to write. Not difficult, but it looks ugly. Quote diya, open close, comma, quote, open close, comma, quote, open close. This doesn't look nice. Weird it looks. So Python offers another method to print the formatted outputs. What it does, it gives a function called format, which can be very, very handy used. Now, I am just rewriting this print so that the same output will be printed, but in a neater way. Just check. I'll give quote open, then sum of. Now listen, after sum of, I want value of A to be printed. So what I will do is I'll give curly brace open and close, curly bracket. This curly bracket is there on the keyboard. As, mostly it is next to the letter P. P for parrot. Next to letter P, you can see curly brace open and close. I will give this. After that, I'll give and curly brace open close because I want value of B here. And then I will give equal and then curly brace open close because I want value of C here. You will say, sir, this looks more complicated than the earlier one. But what's nice about this is we have given quote open and quote close only once. And whatever we want to print, we have neatly designed it inside the code, and we have left out placeholders. You see, these are placeholders where I want to print ABC. Now, just immediately after this quote, I will give dot, and after dot, there comes a function format. Now, format is a function, so there will be bracket open, bracket close for format. And then I tell that this first placeholder here, this is placeholder number 1, isn't it? First placeholder should print which value. So I will give in this bracket, it should print value of A. Then the second placeholder should print which value. So I'll give a comma here and say it should print value of B. And the third placeholder here should print value of C. So after giving a comma here, I'll give C. Believe me, rather, no need, you have already believed it. This is much neater way of printing the values. What happens really is, print says, okay, I will print whatever you have given in quotes. So print knows only this matter, what you have given in quotes. So it will print sum of, then wait. It will not print curly braces. But in the place of first curly brace, it will put the value of A. Look where the cursor is hovering. Whatever is the value of A, will be printed here. Then it will print word and then instead of this curly brace, it will not print this curly brace. Here at this place, it will print value of B. And the third curly brace will print value of C. Nice. So I'll just run this code. First number I am entering, let's say, is 23. Second is 32. Just check the output. Sum of 23 and 32 is 55. This was the place where we gave curly brace. This was the place where we gave curly brace, and even here. But after giving three curly braces, after quotation, we immediately gave a dot, and we gave format function, and we just gave list of three variables which are to be displayed at the place of curly brace. This is a neat way of printing. Otherwise, you will see many times, something silly is done by programmers, where programmers write print, and then they give quotation, then comma, something is printed, then quotation, then comma, something is printed, then again quotation, and so on. This is such big that it's absurd to even read this. Whereas whatever variables you wanted to print, why don't you give with this print, you give only one quote. Okay, whatever variables you want to print, you can give the placeholders. And free flowing text, whatever you want to print here, free flowing text. And then after quote, you give dot, and then the format function. The format function will tell whose value here, whose value here, whose value here. So three things you give separated by comma. And one more bracket close should now appear. This last bracket close is for this print. So just check. We wrote one more program last time for area of circle. Just check. We entered radius. Then radius was converted to float, because user may enter 3.5 as the radius. So it should be converted to float. Sorry. Then we evaluated area as pi r square, and we printed area. But this area was printed by saying area of circle equal to, in quote, but A was given after quote, separated by comma. The same thing could have been done like this. I can say area of circle braces. Oh, I'm so sorry. Braces. And then I will close the quote. By the way, single or double quote, anything will be okay. So here I have given single quote. That's fine. That doesn't matter. Then dot, and then format. Now I have only one brace here, one curly brace. So I should give only one variable, which is A, because my requirement is that at this place value of A should be printed. That is, area should get printed. So when I actually run this is going to ask me radius. Suppose I enter radius as 1.5, then this will be the output. This was exactly the value of this area, which got printed over here at the place of curly brace. So we will try to use such formats which makes our life, instead of miserable, it makes our life quite easy as far as printing the outputs is concerned. Anybody there on chat? No. Okay. So far so good. Now let's take up a problem. Okay, and be ready with pen and paper. Let's take up a program. Of course, it is going to be a geometric program. I hope you understand. Being from engineering background, and all of you, rather, I'm sure, from science background, maybe. So the question here is, user should input. User means we. User should input coordinates of 3 points of triangle. Let's say coordinates are x1, y1, x2, y2, and x3, y3. So what should happen, we are having some triangle on paper. Definitely this point has some coordinates. This point has some coordinates. This has some coordinates. Correct? So we should from keyboard, we should enter value of x1, y1. Let's call this as x1, y1. This is x2, y2. And this is x3, y3. These values we have to enter. So we have to enter 6 values. Okay. And the program, in short, I am writing, program should find and print area of this triangle. Now everybody knows one formula for area, half base into height. You know that. But now we are not given base and we are not given height. We are given coordinates of 3 sides, 3 points. Then how do you find area? Now the steps are, you find the length of this side. Let's call it as A. You find length of this side also. Let's call it as B. And you find length of this side. Let's call it as C. Well, user will not input ABC. ABC will be calculated by my program. So tell me, don't you know A? How do you calculate it? Come on, that's distance formula. In fact, we wrote a program yesterday for finding distance between 2 points. So A is going to be math.sqrt. I hope you remember. Square root of what it will be? X1 minus x2 the whole square, isn't it? So x1 minus x2 into x1 minus x2. Remember priority of operators. Then plus y1 minus y2 into y1 minus y2. And then one more bracket close for square root. This is going to evaluate this side. Similar formula you will write for B and for C. All 3 sides you evaluate, isn't it? After evaluating 3 sides, you find semi-perimeter S, which is A plus B plus C divided by 2, not by 3. It's semi-perimeter. Semi means 2. So you calculate semi-perimeter and finally you get the area. Area is equal to square root of S into S minus A into S minus B into S minus C. And then you print area. Look, if you are seriously solving, I am sure you will, if you are seriously solving this exercise now, then you will put everything into picture, whatever we have learned till now. Priorities, then the operators, and then square roots, and all sorts of things, and variables. Okay. So I'm going on mute for 5 minutes. After coming back, I will just ask randomly someone, and I'll be happy if somebody raise hand and answer it by taking interest. So I hope you are about to start communicating, although the code is a bit bigger. There were 18 who left, I don't know. Anyway, maybe due to bad internet connection. Okay. So are we ready? Is anybody interested in raising hand and unmuting and suggesting a few things in the program?
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Who is it?
Shubham.
Shubham. Okay. Shubham Shelar.
Yes. Sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me open a new tab here. Okay, Shubham.
Yes. First we import math function, means import math.
Okay, import math.
Uh, okay. Uh, then we input
Yeah,
like a is equal to first
input.
input, and in input uh, we can text means uh,
Enter the
enter.
X1.
Huh,
X1. Let's say. So, Shubham,
huh,
I would like to put the variable name as X1 itself.
x1. Okay.
That's okay. It's not necessary that variable names must be A, B, C. It can be
Yes.
X1, Y1, like that. Okay. So what will happen, A is not bad. There's nothing bad in A, but what will happen is these variables which I am saying, just the cursor is hovering, will become A, B, then this will become C, D, then this will become E, F, correct? And then sides will become something like L, M, N. No harm in that, but I'll name the variables as X1 itself. That will be easier for us to refer. Do you agree, Shubham?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just a matter of copy paste now. I'll just copy paste this line 6 times, because next variable we can enter is y1, value of y1. So we'll ask operator to enter y1, and then we will ask operator to enter x2. This is the value of x2 now, and then y2. We'll say please enter y2. Then we will ask x3. So make a variable called x3, and finally variable called y3. Ask user to enter y3. That's it. Only 6 values we have to input: x1 y1, x2 y2, x3 y3. Okay, Shubham, continue. Now we have entered all 6 values. What next?
Uh, uh, Next we means we can convert it into an integer, means
Oh yes, oh yes. So we will have to write x1 is equal to float x1. Is it correct?
yes, yes,
Correct. And we will have to do it with every variable.
yes.
Okay. So I'll just again copy paste this 6 times, because the second variable that I had is y1. So y1 is converted to float. Here is x2. X2 is converted to float. Then y2, x3, and y3. Y3. So now I have 6 legible floating point numbers. Okay, well done. What next?
Now we need to add means three more
3
means
more variables. So I'll call first side as A. Okay, I'm computing A.
float a float a.
No need of declaring, Shubham. Just write A is equal to formula. In
Yes,
Python, there
yes,
is
yes,
no
yes,
declaration.
yes,
Yeah, that's
yes.
right. You are coming from family of C language. Yes. Okay. A
Uh,
is equal to
mat dot square.
mat.sqrt.
Yes, and
Okay.
bracket.
Bracket.
Uh, oh, one more bracket.
Okay.
X1 minus x2.
X2.
Uh, yes.
Yeah.
Doubles
Double
means
star.
double
Okay.
star 2.
2. Okay. So this is x1 minus x2 the whole square. Okay.
Yes, plus
Then plus.
y1 minus y2.
So bracket will be needed.
Yes.
Y1 minus Y2, and then outside the bracket double star 2. Excellent.
Yes. Yeah.
That's right. So actually what Shubham is doing, everybody please listen. What he says is that he has this triangle, and if he says that this is x1 y1, this is x2 y2, and this is x3 y3, then Shubham is calling this side as A, because the formula written is x1 minus x2 the whole square plus y1 minus y2 the whole square. That's fine. We have found the first side. Similarly, the second side and third side can be found. Now, the second side B will be between x2 y2 and x3 y3. So, just change of variables we'll have to do. That's it. So, x2 y2 and x3 y3 are the points between which we are finding the second side B. So, I will do it, Shubham, by just copy pasting this. So,
Yes, sir.
yeah. Oh, good Lord, what happened? Wait a minute. So, B is equal to, it was between x2 and x3.
X2, X3.
So, x2
Y2,
minus
Y3.
x3
Yes.
the whole square and y2
Y2, Y3.
minus y3 the whole square. Excellent. And then one more
C.
paste I will do, and I'll say the third side C is x2 minus x3 minus x2 the whole square. That's the
No, 1.
minus 1. Yeah,
One.
that's the only combination remaining, and y3 minus y1.
Y1.
So all three sides found. Okay, Shubham, well done till this point. Okay, anyone else who would like to continue from here for the rest of the code?
Sir,
Yeah, who is he?
Anmol.
Anmol. Okay, Anmol. Continue.
Sir, then we will use S for semi-parameter.
Okay, so there comes a new variable s equal to, let me scroll down. Wait a minute. Yeah, s is equal to,
Brackets
okay,
A plus B plus C
okay,
divide by 2.
divided by 2. Correct. And the brackets are compulsory, because if you don't give brackets, then c upon 2 will be done first. Okay, good. What's the next line?
Then we use Heron's formula.
Okay, Heron's formula. That's right.
AR equals to
AR. Good. Well done. AR is equal to
math dot sqrt,
math.sqrt bracket.
again brackets,
Are you sure? Okay, brackets. I'm sorry.
sir,
No, it's
again,
okay. Okay,
again,
fine. Yeah, brackets. Okay.
S multiplication with S minus A.
So s minus a, there will be a bracket needed. Yeah, that's right. Correct or not? Now bracket will be needed.
Again
S,
multiplication,
again multiplication.
brackets S minus B,
Okay. Multiplication.
S minus C.
S minus. Great. And then finally print.
Yes, sir.
Print maybe area equal to placeholder, then dot, format, AR. Okay, that's the code. Congratulations. Absolutely right. No mistake. But you know what? Nice thing I found over here is that Anmol took a variable called AR. Most of the times, the mistake made by students is they say, I will use A as area. Because A for apple, like that A for area. But hello, we have already used a variable A for storing the side. I mean, there is no harm. You can use A itself for finding area. But then if you store area in A, then you are going to lose this value if you want it later. Please try to understand variables can have. It's not that for area you should have variable called A only. You can fix a name called P. P is the area, no problem. Or you can say AR is the area. Or how about area, full word? There's no harm. So Anmol took a variable called AR, and we are now printing the value of AR. Okay. So now time to run this code. Are we ready? No, we are not yet ready. What did I tell you yesterday? Please do not run the program unless you have some valid input at your hand. There is something called testing the code, isn't it? And code should be tested with authentic input. Look, when you run the code, you should know what should be the output on the screen. Just see, what if I take a triangle like this, where I have first coordinate as 0, 0, and second coordinate I have is 3, 0. Okay. and the third coordinate here I have is 0, 4. So you check that this is the triangle. This is the triangle which I am talking about. Okay. Now, if you call this as x1, y1, this as x2, y2, and this as x3, y3. So we are entering these 6 values 0, 0, 3, 0, and 0, 4. And then we are calculating A. Now, it is clear that A will be 3. I mean, no need of even running that formula, which says x1 that is 3. X1 that is 0, 0 minus 3 the whole square, plus 0 minus 0 the whole square, which will be 3 square, which is 3. By the way, this length is 3. It is seen. And this B, this side B will be 4. And you know that this side will be 5. Come on. This side will be 5. Isn't it? If you just check this, if you just check this line, this is going to be 0 minus 3 the whole square plus 4 minus 0 the whole square, which is going to be 3 square plus 4 square, which is going to be square root of 25, which is 5. So we have got all three sides. Now the semi perimeter will be 3 plus 4 plus 5, a plus b plus c upon 2, which will be, I think, 12 upon 2, which is 6. And now the area AR will be square root of 6 into 6 minus first side. First side is 3, 6 minus a, then 6 minus 4, then 6 minus 5. So this will be square root of 6 into 3 into 2 into 1, which will be 6 3 is 18, 18 to the 36. Square root of 36 will be 6. So 6 should be our answer. Look, we are ready with all inputs and the output which we want. Just don't run your program by entering any arbitrary values and then believing in your program. Maybe your program gives wrong answer. So we will run the code now. What is x1, y1 we planned? It was 0, 0, I think. Yeah, 0, 0. And let me check what is x2, y2 we planned. It was 3, 0, 3, 0. So 3, 0. And x3, y3, I think was 0, 4. Yes, 0, 4. 6 is the answer. Congratulations. Well, we have not printed A, B, C, the three sides, because that was not asked in the question. A, B, C, and S. Because A, B, C, and S are intermediate values which we needed to calculate the area. So finally we calculate area and we print area only. Very good, both of you. Sarika, have you got the program? Have you understood? Hello, Sarika. Here she is on chat. Sarika says yes. Saket Rao, did you get this? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Samruddhi Salvi. Please excuse me if I am not taking some names. Samruddhi is, I think, on the chat.
Sir,
Yes,
excuse
sir.
me.
Yeah. Who is he? Who is this?
Sir, Rohit.
Rohit. Okay. Continue.
Sir, why did we take float?
Rohit, what I support mostly, when you are working on geometric programs,
Yeah.
then it's better to take floats. Actually, in this example, for this input, it was okay even if you took ints, because we are entering 0, 0, 3, 0. But what if I want to run the program where I have first coordinate as 0, 0, second coordinate as 3.5, 0, and this coordinate as 0, 4.5? Then I will be stuck. Okay. So I expect that the user will input float if it is a triangle program. So that's why I have written float over there.
Sir, can we
Yeah.
take integer?
Yeah, you can, but then you will be stuck, isn't it? If you
Yeah,
take-
but if we take another numbers, for x is equals to another number, y equal to another, x1 equal to another number, some other number,
like
like
suppose I say
like
what
x1 equal to 2 and x2 equal to 4.
yeah, that's fine. But then are you going to run the program only with this input? What happens is that you write a program and you give it to someone to execute, isn't it?
Yeah.
We write programs for others. We don't write programs for ourselves.
Yeah.
So who knows what type of triangle that person has?
Yeah.
So we can't tell that person, no, you enter only integer values. We can't tell, because what if, see, that person is working on real coordinates.
Okay.
So what if that person has 0.5 comma 0.5 as the coordinate? So it's better that we make arrangement for floats instead of int.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, that's the reason. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anybody else wants to say something? Ashish Dwivedi, are you okay with this? Hello, Ashish. Okay, Ashish is on chat. Yeah, he says yes. Yeah, okay, good. So well done again. Quite a big program. Now, I'll tell you one more thing, that if you are seriously using Jupyter Notebook, you know, and you are trying some programs in Jupyter Notebook, then what happens is you type the program and you run them, isn't it? And the output appears here exactly. You see, this is how the program executed. This entire thing is the output. And maybe in your notebook you write 100 such programs and their outputs are also there. What happens, when your Jupyter Notebook becomes very big means very big in size. Okay. If it becomes very big in size, then next time when you try to open that Jupyter Notebook, it doesn't open. This has happened to me a lot of times, because on my Jupyter Notebook I have lot of graphs, pictures and all that, and the size of the notebook increases dramatically. And when you close this Jupyter Notebook and next time when you try to open it, it doesn't open. So it's always a good habit that after executing the program, and if you are comfortable with the output, you're happy, then go to this output. You can see how the cursor is hovering here. Just double click on this. Just double click and it will hide the output. So program, of course, program we need later on. This is the program, but the outputs you hide before you close the Jupyter Notebook. So Jupyter Notebook, this notebook will be saved without outputs, and it will be small. I think Shiva got logged out. That's what I was thinking. The count is decreasing. It was 19, now it is 16. Anyway, okay. So just take care about this. Otherwise, there is a danger that you may lose your notebook. So some kind of hard work like this has to be done. This is the output. I'll hide it, and then I will come out of Jupyter Notebook and all that. There's another output here. Okay. Okay. Now the same thing, the same program that we wrote here could have been done using matrices. And those who remember, this could have been done by using method of determinants. Yes. Actually, we have linear equations and we can solve it by determinants. I'm not going into that discussion. If somebody is thinking about that, I'm sure somebody might have thought that this can be solved by using method of matrices and determinants. But definitely we will come back when we learn matrices using NumPy module. We can deal with matrices and we can see how determinant of a matrix can be easily found and this problem can be solved. And the nice thing would be we don't have to write so many formulas in that program. Just find determinant, it will tell you what's the area. That's all. Okay. So, what shall we do after learning operators, print, input statements, variables, data types? Now, from here, from here, our journey continues to learn something called control structures. And before I tell you that there is something called for loop or while loop or if else, correct? Before I tell you this, that these are control structures. For is a control structure, while is a control structure, if else is a control structure. But first of all, what is control structure? See, I have this habit that whenever I see any new topic, okay, before I read the content of that topic, I would be interested in knowing why the topic is named like that. There are two words, control and structure. So what are we controlling and which structure are we talking about? Now the point here is like this. This is my Python program. Imagine some lines I have written. This is the Python program. Imagine some lines, okay? And I run this program. Then by default, Python will run the program from top to down. It will start running the program from line 1. After line 1 executes, it will run line 2, then line 3. So you can see that the control, this is the control. The control or flow, another name given is flow. Flow of the program is from top to down. Why? Is it due to gravity? No, it is like that. Any program will be executed such that the program will execute from top to down, line by line. But many times, as a programmer, what you want to do as a programmer, is that there are a few lines here, like these two lines, which you want to repeat, some fixed number of times. Maybe these two lines should repeat 10 times. And after they have repeated 10 times, the control, check the word, the control should then reach the next line, then next line, then next line, and these lines should run. So what are we controlling? We are controlling the flow of the program. By default, flow of the program is from top to down, but many times we want to change the flow, send it up again and take it to down, and then send it up, take down, and so on, and create a loop or a cycle. Hence, the topic name given is control structure. I was telling you that the first language I learned was C. And I learned it from a textbook written by Mulish Cooper. I mean, I must thank this person that the author had written an excellent statement at the beginning of control structure. And I still remember that you become a good programmer only if you know how to control the flow. I mean, the control, you can say remote control, should be in your hands. You should be able to send the control to any line at any point of time and bring it back. If this skill is understood very, very well, in that case, I should say that you have won 90% of the battle. You'll say, what, sir? You're saying 90% of programming is control structures? Yes. And 10% of programming, believe me, 10% of programming is arrays. You might have heard about these words: matrices, functions, and all sorts of things. Objects. classes, 10%. I am not exaggerating. And most of the times, what mistake happens is that people, whenever learn Python, will say, I will directly import NumPy array, NumPy module, and I'll start working with matrices and arrays. Hello, what are you going to do with that if we don't know how to control the flow? It happened that somewhere back in 1998, I was taking a batch of C++, and there was a controller of that batch, and she used to ask me after every lecture, which topic did you teach today? I used to say control structure. Then after the next lecture, control structure. Which topic did you teach today? Control structure. Array, she started complaining, you're still teaching control structures. I told that I will be teaching control structures till the last lecture. This is so important. Anyway, I hope I have given you importance of the topic. Why this is so important? Just before I close the discussion for the day, I will tell you a simple example of control structure. Suppose there is a question like this: write a program, in short, WAP, to print all numbers from 1 to 10. 1 to 10. This is the question. So when I run my Python program, the output should be 1, 2, 3, up to 10. That's it. Simple. So, assume I don't know anything about control structures. How do I write my program? What I will do is, I'll say print in quotation 1. Now you remember, whatever is given in the quotation is printed as it is. So this print will print 1. And then I will give next line as print 2. Print 2. So this will print 2. Then I will keep doing this and I will give print 10. So it will print finally 10. And then I'll say, Dekha, I wrote program for printing 1 to 10. Arey, what kind of program is this? I mean, and what if you were asked to print 1 to 100? Oh, good Lord. Will you keep writing print 100 times? Here is where we get an idea of loop. We just can't write this repetitive work so many times. So we give up the idea of doing this work. So what is the way to print all numbers from 1 to 10? There is a way that you can create a loop like this. What you say is, you say for, this is our code now, okay? For, let's take a variable x in range. Don't worry. You will get to know what is this, because we are going to learn this extensively in the next lecture, but just to give you some taste about what is a loop. For x in range 1, 11, colon, check the grammar, colon, and then print x. Check how I have written print slightly inside. I have not written this print below for. Slightly inside I have written. That's it. This is the code. This is the code, and it will print 1, 2, 3 up to 10. Not up to 11. Up to 10 it will print. So just compare those 10 lines that we wrote. There is somebody on chat. Hello students. Okay, Ekida. This is the message from Ekida. Okay. Okay. So this is the code which will print all numbers from 1 to 10, not from 1 to 11. Just check this. Although I have written 11, it will be 1 less than this value. And this is the beginning 1. So you can compare those 10 lines that I wrote against these 2 lines. So somebody tells me to print 1 to 100. So what? I will just write this as 101. See the last value here, 101. So it will print all numbers from 1 to 100. So just to show you the the for loop in action before we close the discussion for the day is, just give me some time. Okay, here we go. Suppose I write for x in range 1 comma 11, okay, and then colon. Now you see how I am writing this statement bit inside the level of the for loop. I'll tell you this is known as indentation. I'll tell you in the next class. But then here I will put print x. Let's run this code. And this is printing 1 to 10, you observe. Just check the output. Whereas it would have been too silly to give 10 prints, printing 1, 2, 3 up to 10. So seriously, we are going to learn very interesting programs. In fact, I'll say that the real programming now starts from the next lecture, where we will be doing variety of coding using loops and condition making. So it's time now. Let's go for lunch. Thank you very much, everyone.
Sir,
Yes.
so when will be the next lecture?
Yeah, you will get that. I think in the chat, you have that. Just now, somebody posted, sir, please tell students to connect Professor Abhishek if they want to attend next session. Okay. So you can contact Abhishek, sir, or you will get a message. You will get a message on your WhatsApp or on your phone. Mostly, we have planned lectures on Saturday, Sundays only. But from my side, I'll be glad if I am given some lecture in the weekday also. Is your query solved? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think I can end the meeting now. See you, everyone.